I used to hate Shin Megami Tensei V's open world. It was bland, it was empty, and it was bloated. Several years later, when I sat down to play Vengeance, I went into it with an open mind. Let me meet the game on its own terms. Perhaps I was being too much of an SMT4 purist, and buying into my own narrative that due to Apocalypse, this series was getting soft and flaccid on me, since SMT4 is one of my favourite JRPGs of all time. Okay Vengeance, I have returned to you. After years of soul seeking, I'm no longer the man I was before. I appear before you, not to pass judgment, but to listen. After the halfway point, I found myself enjoying it quite a bit. Maybe a huge portion of that is because the two new zones are more visually appealing and better designed. Maybe it's because the story has more focus, so the narrative and exploration are better paced. I had my feet up and some anime in the background as I wandered through that, exploring and collecting. But that's when it started to dawn on me. Should I be feeling this relaxed when playing an SMT game? There was almost no sense of tension or hesitation. This is the sort of thing I play Dragon Quest XI for, or Pokemon. But for the most part, I like my old school dungeon crawlers, that sense of claustrophobia, constant danger, traps, puzzles, finding random weapons, armor and loot, on my last legs and stumbling onto a healing potion. When reading through dev interviews, it's clear that the team wanted to experiment and have fun with Unreal Engine to see what they could pull off, and they clearly see this as an evolution of the formula. Personally, I see it more as a misdirection. It falls into that narrative people try to push about how turn-based RPGs were designed in such an archaic way due to technological and budgeting limitations of the time, and that certain design elements don't have a place anymore. Now this is obviously fallacious. The question we should be asking is, what is the intent behind certain design elements? SMT 3 and 4 had you aimlessly wandering around with no direction in an openly hostile world, desperately scrambling to find the next safe haven or leads to further your objective. It was down to your own curiosity, initiative, and fortitude to survive and progress through the game. By that design, Vengeance is much more linear. Despite how it's presented, you're ultimately moving in a straight line with the occasional diverging path. But most of that exploration exists for its own sake, since you're just gathering collectibles, not what I would consider resources. I think that when you don't have much in terms of tension to break that up, it can feel monotonous. I never feel ganged up on or cornered by enemies since there's so much damn space.
I can just turn and walk out of this room. See ya.
Because even these, I can't even call them dungeons, they're just a joke. Now granted, the two new zones introduced in Vengeance are far superior and do manage to pull off the sprawling open world a lot better, so that somewhat solves the linearity issue, but that's kind of it. Though, let me flip the script a bit and talk about what I do like about these open worlds. At times, that does feel very lived in. The mini communities that exist among the demons, as well as the side quests that have certain demons at odds with each other, or in some instances cooperating. Demons evolve from just being random encounters to feeling like their own mythological ecosystem. It's cool watching demon lore play out in real time, as opposed to just existing in a compendium entry. And you actually get to play a part in that. Like Huan Long using his dragons to test you, or certain conflicts will have you choosing a side like Kresnik or Kodlak. Some demons just straight up clash in ideology like Asperas and Lin and Seed. And a lot of them contribute to your alignment, as Vengeance returns to the formula that I prefer, where your behaviour throughout the game is what dictates your ending, leaving no room for contradictions or inconsistencies, so that's a huge plus. I wouldn't mind keeping this around, as some conflicts will really have you thinking. The disagreement between Anansi and Onyakopon was engaging, even if Onyakopon can come across as a bit too much of an old head at times.
Once upon a time, a man got fucked.
A lot of these feel less like side quests and more like side stories or mini arcs. You had some of this in Nocturne, don't get me wrong, but there was a difference in how demons reacted to you. In Nocturne, the Demi-Fiend is just some random nobody, so they don't feel the need to engage with you so much. The Nahobino is treated like this walking conflict ender, so a lot of the demons will have strong responses to your presence. But I guess that's a whole nother layer not really impacted by the open world much, so maybe I wasted my breath a bit. Do you guys enjoy seeing my thought process work in real time? I don't. So these pros and cons do have me feeling a little conflicted.
I remember you was conflicted.
On one hand, they turned my oppressive dungeon crawler into a Banjo-Kazooie collectathon. On the other hand, demons do feel more engaging. I think there's a good middle ground you could work with. I do find myself leaning more towards 4's approach, but that also had a banger story which worked in tandem with that, so maybe that's just another issue I have. I was gonna propose they could keep their open world if they wanted, shrink it a bit for budget reasons, and then work more on having proper old school dungeons. But then I realized I'm basically describing Nocturne, which, yeah, why not actually? I don't need the world to be this large and bloated. I think Nocturne had the best balance with all that. Or another thing that came to mind, keep your open world as is, and go for a Tartarus style situation. Have the one giant precedingly generated dungeon you traverse through, and when you reach a certain point, you continue exploring the open world. That's why Tartarus existed in the first place, for budgeting reasons. I don't know, I think I'm just forcing shit together at this point. Maybe people love Vengeance as it is, and this will be the future of SMT. Unless Atlus decides to release spin-off titles alongside it, like say Strange Journey and whatnot, have mainline SMT stick to the Vengeance formula and side games just to cater to the old fans like me. I just want everyone to get what they want, I don't want to gatekeep. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Should we keep the open world or crawl back underground?